Okay, good morning everybody. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to catch up with us. Hope you're all having a lovely morning and certainly keeping safe. I hope today will be useful for you and provide some some key insights to the Camms.Risk platform. And as a very brief way of introduction, my name is Tom Kerr and I head up the pre-sales team here at Camms. I'll be taking you through the session today. So today we're going to obviously be taking a look at the Camms.Risk platform. So specifically, I'll be focusing on the enterprise risk module of Camms.Risk, and as you can see on the screen here, Camms.Risk actually has a number of other modules that cover, incident management, work health and safety, compliance management, audit management, so on and so forth. But today the focus will be on the enterprise risk management module. If you want to see how these modules interrelate with one another, I mean, they do all natively integrated as one broader platform. Please just let me know, and we can certainly have another discussion or demonstration of that. But yeah, today's focus is risk management, and the configuration and output that you're seeing today is largely aligned with our rapid deployment methodology. So that's an implementation method to get you up and running as soon as possible, which you may have already been introduced to in getting the invite to this webinar. Very good. Okay. Well, without any further introductions, let's jump into the tool and really get stuck into it. Awesome. So I thought I would start today with the end in mind. So once Camms.Risk is up and running, what can you do with the data to drive better business practices and decision making, which is ultimately all aligned to trying to manage or reduce the exposure the risk exposure, of the organisation. So there are multiple layers of reporting available for different users depending on role type or their particular points of interest, and we're just going to go through a couple now. So what I'm really looking at here is a dashboard view for somebody at that chief risk officer or executive or management level who really wants to have a strong level of oversight over risk at a point in time. So this is really all about the here and now. So for this particular demonstration, let's imagine that I'm Joe Smith, the Director of Global Operations, as you can see up here. This would typically be, this dashboard would typically act as my home page because it gives me the capacity to, very quickly and very easily identify and keep abreast of key areas of concern. So really it's all about, having the information at your fingertips so that you can direct your attention and effort to where it's most needed. So if we take a couple of simple use cases with the widgets on the screen here, I can very quickly and easily access my risk summary. So what I can do is I can see what are the two extreme risks that I need to be aware of. This is a register view of those risks, and I can again point my attention or energy to managing those risks as well. But on the flip side of that, I can also look at things from a broader perspective around how my team is going at managing their own risks. So I can see things like the risks by overdue status. So as an example here, I might want to see all of the risks which are overdue by more than 60 days. So I can click into this particular widget, and that will then open up for me a register view of these risks, which I need to be aware of as an individual. So you can see there's quite a number of different widgets that you can play with, and they're just a couple of very simple use cases aligned to that. So there are a range of other ones that we could go through. So if I scroll down the screen, you'll see that there's more information on controls, risk breakdown structure across categories. There's information on general sort of action progress and things like that, and all of this can be interacted with in a way that's going to allow Joe to access the underlying information really quickly and easily. And he's also able to do things like look at just an overarching risk register, so he can click into that and a risk register will pop up for him. Same thing goes with action registers across his team. So again, I can click into that and I can see all of the appropriate actions. This is just one way that you might choose to configure it. So if I look at, another area of this dashboard, again, you can see a number of different widgets. So, there's a widget to align the top 10 risks for me. So here's a, widget across the top 10 risks. There's more interactive analysis around, the heat map here where you can basically click into a point on your heat map and identify the risks which associate with that. So I just wanted to very quickly highlight that because, as you're hopefully noticing, this dashboard has been designed in a manner to present key data and key risk information, which is very easy to consume and is also very relevant to the end user. So on that point, Joe actually has a lot of capability to configure this area to, I guess, allow him to interact with it most in a manner which is going to be most beneficial for him. So that extends to things like being able to shift the presentation of these widgets, on the fly. So as you can see here, I'm just, using a variety of different visualizations. But what I can also do is I can also turn these widgets on or off as I'm going through. So this is a settings area, so I won't jump to this too much. But I can actually choose what widgets show. I can choose, what format they show in, as you can see here. So donut, pie, column, graph, etc. All of those I can choose, and basically what that's allowing me to do is it's allowing me to ensure that I'm presented with a dashboard that is most relevant for me at a point in time. That even goes down to being able to select things like color schemes and the like. So I won't go into that in too much detail because it is more of a, I guess, administrative function. But the bigger picture is just to get an understanding that it's a very, very flexible and configurable dashboard area. The final couple of things I want to talk about from this sort of dashboard view is we've been looking at this, as we said at the start, from the perspective of Joe Smith. So he logs in, he's the Director of Global Operations, and this is his risk dashboard to get an oversight over how the organisation is performing. On the left-hand side here, you'll notice that there's a range of other sort of hierarchy structures that you can establish. So just if I jump back, you'll notice that it's presenting information for operations and IT because that's the business unit which I'm in charge of. But if I open the org hierarchy up here, you can actually see that there's a range of other structures which allow you to pivot the data appropriately. So if I was, if I jump into operations and IT, if I was manager of support or manager of systems, I could certainly profile my risks, and that would be typically what my dashboard view looks at. Or if I was, general counsel, so on and so forth, depending on whatever my role is in the organisation and where I sit within the org structure, you can be presented with different views of risk. So that's probably the most common way to profile the risk, at least at that top level. But the solution also provides a number of other ways to profile risks, be that by your strategic outcome framework. So having the ability to link that back and again, interrogate risk exposure based on the, attainment of strategic goals that the organisation has set out. So there's that provided. And then there's also the ability to link into any other structure that you might establish. So commonly this is things like location structures. So, for those organisations who have multiple sites, geographically dispersed, being able to profile risks by site A, site B, site C, as an example. But there is really no limit to sort of the other, hierarchies that you can link this into, and ultimately that's all aligned to providing users like Joe with the ability to, interrogate data at a point in time that's most meaningful for them. And then just finally, this is really, our most rudimentary level of reporting, but you can take a PDF extract directly from the dashboard view. So I've just run that there, and you'll notice that has popped open for me in a PDF view. So at any point in time, whatever sort of dashboard you configure and you've tailored, you can present a dashboard view on that as well. I'll get into some of the more detailed reporting as we go through, but that's certainly one of the, as I said, more of the rudimentary level, but still useful to know. So the second sort of tier of reporting that I want to take you through now is more around, where a risk manager would probably live and what they would do to, validate the performance of their risk mitigation framework over time. So this is the heat map dashboard, and really the distinction between what we were just looking at from, the overarching risk dashboard area to here is that this is more about, as I said, tracking information over time, whereas previously we were looking at, the here and now, exactly as is. So what this dashboard does, and what's quite powerful about it, is it allows you to profile risks and their movement over time. So as I click around, you'll see that I can, analyze where these risks are tracking, where they've started, so on and so forth. And again, I can actually profile this in a number of different ways, leveraging those hierarchies that we talked about before. So again, this is presenting just information for operations and IT because of the way that I'm linked in the organization, but there are a number of other ways in which you might choose to, I guess, present this information. What we're seeing, I guess, customers use this for in reality is really to, I guess, support, I guess, thorough discussion in things like risk and assurance committee meetings and things like that, because ultimately what it allows you to do is, yes, you have that top level where you can analyze the graphics around how that's moving, but for a particular risk, you can actually click in and access a status report, which ultimately allows you to validate that movement. So what you're able to see is what are the latest commentary, or sorry, what is the latest commentary that's been applied by the risk owner and relevant levels of management if appropriate. I can then see all of the key actions all the treatment actions that are taking place, as well as all of the controls that are in place, as you can see here. And again, further to that, I can also look at some key risk indicators or KRIs that we've established within the record as well. So there's really quite a broad range of information that you can interrogate from this dashboard, and you can do that for any number of risks. As you're sort of going through. So it's quite an interactive way to, I guess, extract information from the data. Extract data from the solution. As we're sort of going through as well. Now, one of the things about this is it's also really very relevant to note that dashboards are great, and we are certainly seeing our customers use them more and more and integrate that more and more into their reporting processes. But there is still certainly a necessity to present reports in, more of a hard copy sort of format, for things like board packs or executive reporting and things like that. So there's still a place, certainly for hard copy reporting. And this is an example of a heat map report, which is something that can be generated from the system at the click of a button. And it's pretty much the interactive heat map dashboard converted or transposed into a PDF form. So if I scroll down, what you'll notice is that it again, it plots all of my risks on my matrix structure, as you can see. So here's that matrix structure, and here's all of the, I guess, the risks plotted on that. And then as I scroll down, you'll see that it gives me a summary grid view of all of the key risks, the ratings, the trends, the latest commentary. And then if I scroll down, it'll actually give me, further detail around, what is the particular risk, and these are all of the attributes associated with it. So, causes, consequences, controls, actions, KRIs. I mean, you can see all of those on the screen, but the I guess the key element to understand here is this is run as part of a standard reporting package at the click of a button, and can be included in the I guess board packs or anything similar that you might need to present up the chain as well. One thing I do want to focus on in looking at this report is just this concept of risk appetite. So you'll notice as we go through some of the register views as well, that the solution supports the ability to set a risk, a risk appetite benchmark, and then you can use that information to present reports as we're doing here, which is sort of only looking at, here I'm only looking at a risk which is outside of appetite. So you can use that function, across a range of outputs as well. So there are a few other standard reports that we'll go through as part of the rest of today. But yeah, that's certainly a good example, and it's also a good example of how the system caters for both the interactive analysis as we're doing here, as well as the more formal reports to be included in things like board packs and executive reporting and the like. Very good. Okay, so look, we've spent a little bit of time looking at the the dashboard areas and the multiple layers of reporting that the solution can provide. It's probably very useful to also get an understanding today of where does that data sit. So we've looked at what you can do once the data's in there, but where is the data stored? You need to obviously have it in quite a logical and easy way to manage, to make sure that you can facilitate that dashboarding and reporting in the as part of the end game, so to speak. So what I'm just going to quickly take you through now is the risk register area, and largely what you'll notice is that there's multiple risk registers that you can establish. All are highly configurable and can be used for for multiple purposes. So at the moment we have, out of the box version, we have strategic risk, operational risk, project risk, so on and so forth. And I'll click into a particular risk now, and I'll take you through, by and large, what is the common, workflow which underpins a risk. Now, I won't spend too much time on this, given, the time constraints of today. But it's very important to know that this is aligned to the out-of-the-box configuration, but there is certainly a lot of scope to, add, remove fields and things like that if you choose to, to make sure that the forms and templates that we're looking at, are best aligned to the data that you want to capture. So to start off with, we obviously have an inherent risk assessment, and this is really where we're capturing all of the risk details around, what is the risk, who owns the risk. So that's a key element as well, to having the ability to sign out multiple risk owners if need be, linking it to an appropriate category, capturing all of the other attributes like causes and consequences, which is really important when you look at some of the bow tie analysis reporting, which I'll show an out-of-the-box version of that in just a moment as well. And then primarily one of the key things that you're then doing is you're having a look at, what is the raw rating of this risk. So without any of the mitigation strategies or controls in place, what risk does this pose to the organisation? And there's a really simple way for users to interact with the tool to conduct this assessment. So they typically interact with a risk consequence table like this, and again, this is an out-of-the-box version, but is one of the things that would often be tailored to an organisation. So they'd pick a particular spot based on the qualitative data shared there, and they would also then pick a related likelihood, again with some further descriptive text there to outline that. Once that's all done, the system will automatically generate a risk rating for you based on, the thresholds and structures that you've put in. And then on top of that, there's also the ability to, view this in the context of your appetite. So you can see that at the moment, this risk is certainly outside of the appetite rating that the organisation is happy to accept at a point in time. As I move through the workflow into the residual risk assessment, this is really where you get into, the broader mitigation strategies. So you've identified your risk, you've got it in your registers now, you understand the risk as it stands. What you're now looking to do is build out a mitigation framework, which involves a number of things, but primarily looking at, the establishment of a number of controls and assigning those controls out to a range of different control owners within the organisation. So that ability to disseminate responsibility across the board is also quite important. To involve everyone in the the risk management process. And what you're looking at here is a control table. And then what I'm able to do as an individual is I'm able to come in and reconduct my risk assessment, taking into account the effectiveness of controls, and largely doing the exact same thing I did just before in terms of selecting a consequence and likelihood, but making an assessment based on the controls that are in place as to what has happened to the overarching risk exposure or risk rating. And what you're seeing here is that risk rating has now dropped significantly, which is great, and it's sitting within appetite of as defined by the organisation. If I just scroll down a little bit further, there's one other key aspect to get an understanding of here as well, and that's the ability to align risk treatment strategies into this as well, which is more around the treatment actions, start and end dates that are defined, quite discrete sort of functions. And so you can conduct a very similar approach to what you were doing with the controls up above, but really that's the ability to assign out treatment actions to individuals. And commonly these actions are either linked to the creation of a new control or strengthening of an existing control. So what the solution will provide here is the ability to either create a brand new control, I can automatically convert this to a risk control once it's completed, or what I've done with this second action here is I've actually linked it into the appropriate control from up above. So that's the ability there to do that. Fantastic. Okay, so the last couple of things I want to talk about in the the risk workflow as such, it really works through this ongoing review framework, as well as the linkage capability. So just very, very, very briefly, the system can support automated business rules around how often risks are to be rated based on the risk rating given. So what I mean by that is, this particular risk is being reviewed quarterly at this point in time. That's primarily linked into the risk rating that it was given as part of its, I guess, residual risk assessment. So you can determine what is an appropriate framework, but by and large, it's an extremely worrisome risk. You might want to be reviewing it and managing it weekly or fortnightly or monthly. So the solution can prompt email notifications on that front to support that process. But if it's a really, really well mitigated minor risk, you might choose to have it reported on annually, and the solution can automate that process. So basically, an email will go out to say this risk is due for review. The risk owner then, doesn't have to remember that a risk is coming up. Doesn't have to take his own notes. The solution will basically support that process. And the final thing I want to talk about, obviously, there's a fair bit of other elements we can get into in the broader risk space. But the final thing I want to talk about is this links concept. So we talked about earlier, I guess, the ability to link in or pivot views by multiple structures. So the solution supports, by and large, a single record multiple linkage principle. So this risk here can be linked to a number of different artifacts. So it can be linked to a number of different KRIs, as you can see here. It can be linked to a number of other elements, across the broader Camms.Risk platform, such as obligations and audits, as you can see there. But the primary thing I want to show you is that you can link this to any range of hierarchy structures, which will allow you to then view the risk in those dashboard areas, in quite a seamless manner. So that's the ability to, as you can see here, this risk is linked into quite a number of different elements. It's relevant to two different parts of the org structure. It's relevant to a strategic goal that this organisation has set out to make, as well as a few other of the other hierarchies that they've established as well. So there's multiple ways to present this down the track. Fantastic. So the final thing I just want to quickly show you on the risk system itself is this concept of the quick update area. So to support a really, really simple way of managing all of your responsibilities from, I guess, go to woe, as an individual user, I might only have a few, so just to take a step back, this use case is more around the individual user who has only a handful of responsibilities across the platform. So, within this view here, I can see all of, my personal responsibilities. Now, just to keep in mind, Joe Smith is a demonstration user as part of this database, so he's got quite a few things linked to him. But primarily what I would be doing as an individual user is I'd be opening my emails, clicking in a link from the email, and I would then be able to jump in and see, all of my responsibilities that are due for review, and I can conduct the reviews, I can conduct the updates from a reporting perspective within the one screen. So I can do it across multiple risks, and I can do it across actions, so on and so forth. So as I scroll down, you'll notice that there's also an area for all of my risk actions and things like that as well. Fantastic. So just very quickly as well, I did promise that I'd show a couple of other standard reports. So this is an example of an action summary report, that someone can run to get an understanding of performance across the mitigation framework. So I'll just breeze through this, but you'll notice that there's a range of different visualizations, and then as I go down, you get into the underlying detail around the risk with all of the commentary. And there's also reports like this, which is the bow tie risk summary report, which pulls through, basically a range of, it pulls through a bow tie analysis out of the box. So these are both reports that you can run, at the click of the button to present information like this. Very good. The final thing I want to talk about before we jump into the questions and answers section is this concept of Camms College. So part of the solution includes access to this, user engagement portal, or basically an online support portal. And what this goes, far and beyond a lot of the concepts that, align to pure solution overviews and training courses. That's certainly a part of it, and I'll show you that in a moment. But what you're seeing here is, if I scroll down, there's a global event calendar which has a range of different things. So there's heaps of webinars, there's a lot of, product updates. So we run a monthly update process, releasing new features and functions into the Camms.Risk tool every month. So you have product experts take you through that in a 30-40 minute webinar each month to show you all of the different changes and basically allow for Q&A on those, as well as a whole range of other courses that you can see here. From a pure solution perspective, if I just hop across to here, this is the risk solution which would come with the risk platform, and it allows you to access a range of videos or a library of courses aligned to the creation of new records. So if I just scroll across a little bit to speed up this video, you'll notice that it now takes you to how do you add a new risk as an example. So there's screen recordings of how to do that as we sort of move through. Fantastic. Okay, well, look, now we'll move to the Q&A section. So I'll just pop this back open. All right, so the first question we have here is how quickly can we get this up and running post-contract sign-off? So yeah, what we showed today was aligned to the rapid deployment package, which has really been designed to have you up and running, from anywhere with between 2 to 4 weeks. It does depend a little bit on each organisation, but by and large, that's a fairly useful, I guess, range, fairly accurate. So yeah, I'd say 2 to 4 weeks. Can you customize the risk framework? Yes. So, a lot of it, as I said, is provided out of the box, but there's certainly elements around, your matrix, consequence tables, likelihood tables, things like that. All of those elements will be, uploaded as part of an initial implementation. Next question here is about Camms College. How often is that updated? So yeah, I mean, the platform itself is regularly updated as, new features and functions are released. So as I mentioned, we have a monthly sprint program, which all of our different releases a whole range of different features and functions every month. So it's updated, accordingly with that. But there's, that's purely, I guess, more so on the solution overviews and basically the key functionality of the tool. It's also relevant to note that, as I said, there's a monthly training calendar which has a number of different things on it, a range of different webinars. I mean, just the other day we had a guest speaker on to conduct a webinar on managing your business through this sort of really challenging operational landscape that we all face at the moment. So there's a whole range of other things like that can apply as well. Where are the databases housed? So I assume that's in reference to the hosting. So all of our hosting is in region. So for most of you today, it would be within Australia, but yeah, typically within region on Microsoft Azure. So this question here is around the reporting formats. Are they customizable? Yes, the ones I showed you, those are the ones that we would determine as standard reports. So they're provided out of the box in more of a set format. We do have the capacity to make minor tweaks to those if needed, and there's also a platform that sits on top of the Camms.Risk tool, which is the Camms Insights tool, and that actually allows you to build your own reports linked to the data sets within the platform. So if that's something that's of interest, we can certainly organise a further demonstration of that for sure. Can we have a demo or training software for 2 to 3 days so we can try the software by ourselves? Look, there's certainly options around how we would do that. So look, I'll take that one on notice and perhaps reach out. But yeah, certainly we can organise further follow-up demonstrations to, I guess, dive a bit deeper into the tool. We obviously covered a fair bit at quite a high level today, but yeah, we can certainly provide further demos and allow you to familiarise yourself with the platform a bit further. Okay, any other questions, guys, before we wrap up? Yep, so one more here. Do you have an incident management solution or can you integrate with others? So yes, we do have an incident management module within the Camms.Risk platform. Would be more than happy to provide you a detailed demonstration of that. I mean, we only went through risk today, but there are other modules, including incident, audit, compliance, as an example. So they're all available as well. Okay. One further one here, delegations module available. So we do have some examples of customers leveraging, I guess, delegation registers and things like that in the tool. Be more than happy to, I guess, further discussions on that point as well to sort of give you an insight into the capability in that regard as well. With that, I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, thank you very much again for your time, and hope to speak to you all again soon.